A few weeks ago, I made a video about how I was changing my relationship with the iPad. I was going to stop forcing the iPad to being something it's not and just embrace it for what it is. And a part of that was me thinking about, well, if I'm not working solely from the iPad Pro anymore, if I don't need this for my big creative work, do I really need the big size iPad Pro anymore? The 11-inch iPad Pro size just works better as a tablet. So I was kind of thinking about downsizing, essentially. Well, I've since made that change and I couldn't be happier. This video is sponsored by Surfshark. I still believe if your main computer, the computer you sit down and get all your work done from, is an iPad, your best bet is the 13-inch iPad Pro size. With that size, you obviously get more screen real estate, which is better for things like multitasking, better for creative apps like Procreate, Final Cut, Logic, and you have the biggest possible canvas to use something like the Apple Pencil with. After the last couple of years of not seeing significant changes to iPadOS, I decided I'm going to stop forcing the iPad to be something it's not. I've gone back to using the Mac for my creative workflow, but I'm using the iPad for what it's best for. And part of that is embracing it for what it is, a tablet. The 13-inch iPad Pro, when holding it in that tablet mode, is big. It's very cumbersome, especially if you're holding it for a long period of time. If you're just doing, a small thing, it's not that bad, or if you can prop it up against something, it's not that bad. But if you're having to hold it with your hand, especially if you're having to hold it one hand because the other hand is tapping on the screen, that can get cumbersome. When using the 13-inch iPad Pro in the past, there would be times where I would be like, oh, I could use this as a tablet, especially after the M4 one came out and it got a little bit lighter and a little bit thinner. It did get easier to hold that way. But I would always end up just going back and putting it in the Magic Keyboard case. So essentially, it was just a laptop to me pretty much all the time. Now with the 11-inch model, I've been using it much more as a hybrid computer. I've been using it in this tablet mode for reading books, comics, going through RSS feeds, my Read It Later app. All of that stuff has been great. Surfing the web, online shopping, all of that stuff has been fantastic in tablet mode. But if I want to sit down and get some work done, I can just pop it into the Magic Keyboard case and I can answer emails, write scripts, take care of admin work, spreadsheets, all of that stuff. And then at the end of my workday, if I just want to use my iPad to goof off online, I can just pop it right out of the Magic Keyboard case really easily. Now, the last time I actually used the 11-inch size of the iPad Pro was way back in 2018 when that new iPad came out. I thought for a minute there I would go down to the 11-inch size. And this was back when the iPad was my main computer. I was using it for everything from writing to video editing. And I couldn't quite get it to work for me then. It was just a little too cramped, especially when it came to doing big creative projects. But again, I'm embracing what the iPad is now instead of trying to force it to be something that it's not. And with that, the 11-inch model is the perfect size. It is even better than my beloved iPad mini. This video is sponsored by Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN service that not only protects you, but your data. With Surfshark, your traffic is completely encrypted from your device to its destination, protecting your privacy. Whether you're working from a public Wi-Fi network like in a coffee shop or connecting to the internet in a hotel, your data and privacy is secure. I've already kicked off my summer travels this year and I have a lot going on. And one thing I made sure is all of my devices have Surfshark on it. Now, this isn't a, well, I have nothing to hide, so I have nothing to lose kind of thing. Data is the new gold, and scary people will do scary things to get a hold of it. Something that I really appreciate about Surfshark is they don't keep logs. VPN services that do that just defeat the purpose of using it. Surfshark has a bunch of really handy functions. For example, you can use it to check out price discriminations based on regions. And with Surfshark, you're also able to change your location so that you can check out what other streaming services have to offer. I'm in the US, so I can see what UK Netflix has going on. I really like Surfshark. In fact, it's a service I've been paying for myself for years now. Go to surfshark.com/lolly or use code LOLLY at checkout to get an extra 4 months of Surfshark VPN. My thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Now, when I bought this 11-inch iPad Pro, I didn't go all out like I did with my 13-inch model. I'm embracing what the iPad is good at again. So I decided to really just think about what my actual needs for this iPad would be. I even considered getting a refurbished M2 iPad Pro, but the thing that was holding me back on that was the lack of the OLED display. The OLED display on the M4 iPad Pros is really just that good. I also knew I wanted the Magic Keyboard, and if you go back to my original review for the M4 iPad Pro, I talk about the Magic Keyboard in there and how it's actually my favorite upgrade of that whole generation of iPad Pro. So what I got was the 512 gigabyte M4 iPad Pro. Now, this means I'm losing out on a couple of things. I only have 8 gigs of RAM as opposed to 16 gigs of RAM. But again, I'm not using this for creative work, so I don't really know what I would use that 16 gigs of RAM for. I also lose out on the fact that I can't get the nano texture display as well. That only comes in the 1 and 2 terabyte model. That's actually the thing that hurt me the most. But in order to get the nano texture display, it would have been an extra $600 for this iPad. And it just didn't make sense on how I'm using the iPad going forward. Like, do I really need all of that extra stuff when, I'm going to be using it sitting at this desk, or maybe I might use it in the backyard, but we have like kind of an awning back there. Like, it doesn't make sense. I also didn't get cellular. It's not going to be my main computer, so I just don't think I can justify having cellular on this iPad, and especially paying the upgrade for the cellular antennas. It's nice. I talked in the past how cellular has saved my butt, but cellular saved my butt because that was the main computer I was working from. If the MacBook Pro ever ships with cellular, I would probably buy one of those. Plus, I just can't really justify spending $10 a month or even more, depending on what cellular plan you go with, if I'm not just going to be using this machine all the time as my main computer. Now, I definitely did get the Magic Keyboard, and I already had an Apple Pencil Pro, so I didn't have to worry about that there. But the only accessory I really bought was the Magic Keyboard. Now, as far as storage goes, I decided to keep this a really slim machine. I don't have a local copy of my photo library. It does the thing where it uses the iCloud photos and you can tap on it, it'll download a preview of it, which is fine. Like it works just fine. And I also don't have a local copy of my music library as well. I figure I have that on my iPhone and I have it on the MacBook I'm using. So I don't necessarily need it on my iPad as well. So 512 gigs of storage is more than enough. I didn't want to go with the base 256. I wanted to at least go one step up. But this is perfect for having my Obsidian Vault and all the other stuff that I work from locally on the machine. Plus, if I really needed to, like if I was in a pinch, say MacBook broke or something like that, and I couldn't work from that anymore, and I really needed to edit a video, I could technically get this done. Like this could function as a backup machine if need be, but I'm not, using it in that way. Ultimately, this iPad splits into 2 different functions for me, and it's very clear how these split for me. There is the personal tablet side. Like I mentioned, I take it out of the Magic Keyboard and I can use it for reading. And I've been enjoying just using the iPad as a tablet again. Really, I can't stress enough that when I was using the 13-inch size, it was basically a laptop for me. It just lived in that Magic Keyboard. The other thing I've been doing a lot when in tablet mode is just building shortcuts. This has been my go-to building shortcuts machine. I've been working on a few different things with some new apps, and it's been great just chilling on the couch and building shortcuts. Now, I have been using the Magic Keyboard as a stand when I am in this personal context, whether I'm just, sitting down for lunch and watching a YouTube video, or I'm working at my desk and a Formula One race is on. It's just kind of nice to be able to have that. I probably will pick up a smart cover at some point. I just didn't do it with this original order because I was just trying to keep it as kind of a slim setup as possible, and I didn't want to go from like one cover to another cover. It just didn't really make any sense. What I will say is the Magic Keyboard does take up a lot more footprint on your desk. Like the depth is more than just something like the smart cover. One thing my girlfriend and I are really into is building Legos. That's like our big hobby is we love building Legos. And when you get a Lego set, it always comes with paper instructions. Lego actually has what they call the Lego Build app. And it has all the instructions for all the sets in there, and it's interactive. It's 3D, so you can kind of move the model around and stuff like that. And it's just a lot nicer than the paper instructions, especially if you're building a big set like if you see the Jango Fett Starship one behind me. I used it for that. At the end of my workday, this is the computer that I've been grabbing and kind of walking around the house with. It's my goof off machine. I've been doing online shopping, playing a few games, checking out various websites, all that different stuff. I've just been doing it from here. And I haven't felt like the pull of work on this machine like I used to feel with my 13-inch iPad Pro, because I'm kind of separating how I'm doing everything. But I do use this iPad for work stuff as well. I have multiple home screens set up, and I use focus modes to jump between the different home screens so that it's essentially like a different mode or a profile that this iPad is in. I always start my day going through my RSS feed. I can have it attached to the Magic Keyboard, and I can use the keyboard shortcuts to jump through articles, or I can hold it in my hand and swipe through things. A lot of times I'm eating breakfast while I'm doing that, so I just keep it in the Magic Keyboard and just arrow over. Then I write in Obsidian, and that's probably the biggest use case for this iPad for me, is just a way to write scripts, notes, daily journal, that kind of stuff. I do that all in Obsidian. I use this iPad to keep all my financial spreadsheets up to date. I just use numbers for that. Nothing too exciting, but I sit down, add any receipts and stuff that I purchased, add all my income and stuff into the other spreadsheet. It's just nice to be able to knock that out. I really like having an ultra portable computer for these tasks, and this is what the iPad is great at, especially just the portability of it compared to something like even like a MacBook Pro. Just the size and weight difference between the two is vastly different. And the iPad is a really good single task focused device. Yes, there is multitasking. You can use split view or stage manager if you want, but it really excels when you're just focused on a single task. You can put something in split view and move things over, but I'm trying to stay as far away from stage manager as possible right now, just because the current implementation in iPadOS 18.5 just isn't quite there. I will occasionally go work out of the house. I'll go to a coffee shop or whatever and spend a couple of hours there just to kind of get out of the house, because it can get a little stir crazy when you both work and live in the same place. And something I love about this device is I can just grab it and go. As long as the battery's topped off, I don't have to worry about bringing a charger. I don't need to bring a bag. I don't need to bring external keyboard or mouse or any of that stuff. I just grab the Magic Keyboard, I just grab the iPad, fold it up, and walk out the door. I don't even bother putting it in a bag. The thing that has actually been the hardest thing to adjust to is the smaller Magic Keyboard. The normal row of keys, like the normal letters and numbers, are full-size keys. But when you get to the modifier keys, you'll notice that they're quite a bit smaller than the 13-inch Magic Keyboard size or even just a normal keyboard. This is taking me a little bit of time to get used to, especially because I do use other keyboards that have full-size keys. I'm about 3 weeks into this experiment right now, and I'm kind of finally starting to get there where like I just know when I'm using this keyboard that like these keys are a little bit smaller, so my hands have to go to a different position. The one that always seems to get me is the return and backslash key. I don't know why, but I always kind of hit the backslash key instead of the return key. That's been the hardest one for me. But as far as my standard typing goes, if I'm just writing out a normal sentence or paragraph or something like that, it's fine. I can do that just fine. I don't have any issues there. Overall, this is a really nice pure focus device. I can have my Obsidian full screen and right away, or I can have split view set up if I'm needing to jump between Obsidian and Safari because I'm researching something. So that's kind of been my experience using the smaller of the two iPads for a few weeks now. I'm really liking this combination with a MacBook Pro. You know, they balance each other really well. The iPad is for lightweight, focused tasks, and the MacBook Pro is for heavy, creative. I need absolute raw power and like full versions of apps like Final Cut and Photoshop to get this work done. My thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a great day.